We are back again all together, the All 32 pod. Mike Giardi alongside my cohort, Will Parkinson, fresh from parts unknown, where I believe he had a good time until Sunday morning. And let's just forget with the pleasantries. I'm going to remind you this show is brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. And Game Time, best tickets, best prices to get you in to see any event you want to see, period, end of story. We use them, we love them, we do it. Let's jump right into it, though, Will, because good time on Friday. You had a good time on Saturday. Sunday morning, Jets, Vikings in London, and the Vikings are now 5-0. The Jets are 2-3, and we exchanged some texts. It's a little troubling what's happening with New York right now.
Yeah, so a couple different things. I guess I would put Minnesota kind of was a lot of yesterday what I felt like the concern. If you had concern of, maybe what Minnesota was going to be over the next, 12 weeks or so, that was kind of yesterday where Sam wasn't good at all. That was the Sam game that you kind of were expecting. He got lucky, got away with a few. Didn't run the ball particularly well once Aaron Jones went out. It felt like, we're having trouble moving the football at all. Defensively, they were good. They made the plays they needed to, for sure. They're a much bigger sum of its parts versus maybe individual talent. Again, Gilmore's still a good player. He made a great play at the end, but he's not Stephon Gilmore, was win defensive player of the years. Blake Cashman's a really good player. Van Ginkel, really good player. Again, I'm not talking Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, but they're really well coordinated. Minnesota, again, Kevin O'Connell yesterday was a little weird. I feel like he couldn't figure out what he really wanted to get out of this team once that first 15 was up. That said, they're 5-0. And from a Jets perspective, this game to me was way more concerning than Denver. This was poorly coached. Rodgers looked bad, almost got his leg amputated at one point. I thought it was done when he went down like that, sandwiched. We've seen that injury so many times. I don't know how he stayed in the game. I don't know how he stayed in the game at 40 years old. Breece Hall has looked about as bad as you can look at the running back position 2 straight weeks. Garrett Wilson finally got going, but it took 22 targets in a game, which is
insane,
crazy. And just overall, I guess my thing with the Jets, and again, this is probably harsh, but I don't think they want it bad enough right now as a team, as a full unit. It feels like a lot of feeling sorry for myself because I'm not playing well, kind of get easily frustrated, mental mistakes. Allen Lazard had 4 drops yesterday, including a touchdown and a big second down play that if he catches, Rodgers doesn't throw the interception, the next play. So again, I'm not saying the Jets are not playing hard. They are playing hard. They were really good in the second half. I thought they were going to come back and win that football game. It felt like it was all lined up to do so. But overall, they got to get it corrected and get it corrected quickly because as bad as the AFC is as a whole, as we'll talk about some of these teams, the Jets are just in this weird spot where, like, they'll get Moses back. They'll get Mosley back this week. Rodgers is not going to look as bad as he looked yesterday the rest of the year. He's not. But yesterday sucked, man. It was frustrating because to be so good in the second half and be so good as a whole defensively for the entirety of the game and get really bad performances from pretty much every one of your good players is like, that's why you have hope. That if you're a Jets fan, you're going, man, we're playing terrible as a team right now. We're playing when all our star guys aren't playing well, but once they do, we're rolling. But at the same time, you don't want to dig yourself a hole here, and you got Buffalo coming into your building in 7 days in a team who's, we'll see about Josh Allen, but they're not playing so well either.
It's interesting to me because you talk about sort of like all these things, your best players not playing and not being ready in the first half. I think we exchanged a text was kind of like wake up. They were very sleepy in that first half and dug themselves a hole which they couldn't get out of. And to me, part of that is on the leadership of the guys in the locker room. But then the other part, and probably the bigger part to me, is the coaching staff and is the message being received, and are they doing enough to put these guys in positions to be successful? I talked about it on the pod Friday when you were away, and we kind of had gone back and forth on the Garrett Wilson comments, and it just feels like there's a disconnect, and it's an offensive thing, and it's a Hackett thing, and it's a Rodgers thing, and like Rodgers' frustration sometimes, I think, for lack of a better term, if a guy sees it, the body language, and they all see it on social media later, like, feels like maybe he's showing me up, and I don't know that he necessarily is. It's just like the emotion of the play, but it's like sometimes, dude, you're the guy. You just gotta bite your bottom lip, smack your thigh, and like get back in the huddle and do the next one. So uh, that would be where I was at with them in terms of a concern. And it's like we talk about now, we're 5 weeks in, and obviously they played a complete game against the Patriots, who might very well be the worst team in the league, and we'll get to that next. Good second half against the Vikings, but not great. Good second half against the Titans, but not great. Just haven't put it really all together when it matters. And look, they shouldn't. This isn't a 2-3 football team from a talent perspective, but based on some of the stuff that's going on and the way they're being coached, I guess they are where they're supposed to be.
If they have Devontae Adams and Mike Vrabel as their coach and other receiver right now, they're probably 5-0. No,
I mean, look, I know that things cratered for Vrabel at the end of the Titans, but that roster cratered big time. I can't imagine that he's tolerating some of the stuff that's happening, right? Like the message would have been sent. The message would have been sent back in the spring. Sure as hell would have been sent in the summertime in training camp. And some of the error repeating. Like, I got news for you. I don't really care where you're at a wide receiver position. After the second drop, Lazard's probably going to stand on the sidelines for a while, if not the rest of the while. I would have a hard time believing that. And I'm glad you brought up the Adams thing, because quickly, does it change their offense? Does it change the way? Because it doesn't feel like they're threatening enough people. And I think the Vikings clearly, the pick six to me was we're going to pressure you, and you're going to try to, you like to throw things quick and short. We're just going to jump it. And they jumped it for a pick six. It's a huge play. Like, I just feel like for as good as Adams is, he's not what he used to be. And is he the kind of guy that's going to allow them to stretch the field and create more space? Because I feels like everything is so close to the line of scrimmage, and they're just not able to threaten teams. They horizontally, vertically, like they're not getting all of that.
Yeah, so I think it actually does a lot. I went back and watched a lot of 2022 Packers today, like a sick mother effer, because I was like, what's
You
going
needed
on
to
here?
find your happy place. I got you.
I think that Devontae gets put in the Garrett Wilson role. A lot of intermediate. You go beat man coverage. You go beat doubles. I'm going to throw you back shoulders. I'm going to throw you all these dig routes, slants, and all these different roles. Now Garrett gets pushed into the Lazard role, which is you're going to be more of a vertical guy. You're running those deep posts, those deep digs, go balls. Garrett was running a lot of go balls during camp, and they've gotten away from it. And if Garrett can get freed up, he finally looked like himself yesterday. It felt like the shackles came off him confidence-wise. He was like, oh, like, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, I'm back to myself. That's where I think you start using that 4.38 speed, and him and Mike Williams are going to be your vertical guys. Lazard should be right now used as the Jets' second tight end in the run game that can catch passes, because he's a really good blocker. He can run the whole route tree. He can, and he's not a bad player, but he should be your fifth or sixth option. And he has good chemistry with Aaron and big plays. I understand him being on the field, but he's got to be on the field as like if everything else breaks down, he's in there. So I think Devontae fixes a lot, and his ability to beat man coverage. I just think his presence is if he takes Garrett Wilson's route tree and Lazard's target share through the first 5 weeks, now you're talking about like, all right, I trust Devontae to catch those balls. I'm now going to trust Garrett to run some of these vertical routes, and Garrett should be able to beat pretty much anybody getting vertical and getting that wiggle back a little bit. Now the run game starts to open up. Aaron's feeling more confident. He's always been a body language guy. The most interesting comments, and we'll transition to the Patriots because I know there's been a lot of interesting comments out of that building the last week. It's a lot of concerns me and you had dating back to a combine appearance on my pod 6 months ago, or whatever that was. Quincy Williams said, I've had enough of this bleep. We got to start taking accountability. The excuses of rain, of travel, of injuries, of a million different things. He's like, no one wants to hear it. They want to hear, why did we win today? And so I love that from Quincy. I know a lot of guys in that locker room share that opinion. And I think that's Robert Saleh said, you guys police yourselves. That's been his mantra all year. He's like, I will be hands off with you. You police, veteran locker room with Aaron and Tyron Smith and CJ Mosley and, really respected potential Hall of Famers, mostly those guys in the locker room. Time for that to start happening. And it's enough. It's 2 bad losses. It happens. Look, you lost to the Vikings and you lost a rain game to the Broncos, who look like the best team in the NFL the last 2 weeks. But now it's okay. Buffalo's coming in here. I think, in my opinion, if I was Robert Saleh personally, I wish he would say a little bit this the press conference stuff, but go take Monday. Get away from football. I don't want you guys to go anywhere unless you're in rehab. Get away from the facility. Come back on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever. I guess it'll be really Tuesday afternoon. Ready to go to war with a team who spent the entire offseason, Deion Dawkins in particular, telling you how soft you were. If that's not played throughout the locker room this week, and if you're a Bills fan and there's a lot of the back and forth too, this is a rivalry game. This is one of a few rivalries I feel like left in the NFL right now where these guys don't like each other. Got to have better mentality going into Buffalo this week.
I want to get your thoughts on one more thing before we transition to the Patriots Dolphins, and that is we briefly touched upon the run game, how Brees has looked the last two games, and maybe what Adams could do in terms of opening things up for the run game. What has stood out to you about what's wrong with the run game the last couple of weeks?
It's predictable. Brendan Bates, Jets' third string tight end, they claimed him on waivers. And again, I don't want to come at guys personally. That was the worst performance I think I've ever seen in the run game by anybody in like a long time. He missed on every block. I mean, I'm talking doesn't even make contact on a lot of them. There was one that was so bad he ran into a Jets guy that was engaged in a block it was the fourth down call. The scheme's predictable right now because again, they've gotten themselves into we're not going to motion, which is weird because all camp, I know you can't tweet it as much. All camp, the Jets are using a lot of motion. Garrett was in the slot. They're using two backs. They've gotten away from a lot of the kind of reverted to bad habits when things haven't gone right. It's happened. It happens in the NFL. They've got to get back to pick 5 run plays you're good at. Brees is good at these 3. Braylon Allen's good at these 3, and just do it. Run it out of different motion, run it out of different formations. But it seems like Jets bring 2 or 3 tight ends on the field, run. Jets bring 3 or 4 receivers on the field, pass. And that's what you got to get away from. That's what makes these offenses so dynamic. I know the Patriots and a lot of teams share this concern that are not good offenses right now. The reason you look at, I don't know, I'll just use McVay's teams again. They got too predictable when Bill crushed McVay in the Super Bowl, but it was because they could run so well out of 11 and they could throw so well out of 11. The Jets have the personnel to be a good team that can run out of 11, can run out of 12, and throw out of 12. And right now, they're just, again, get away from the facility for a day. Everyone, including coaches, just wipe it. Like almost better they like almost over prepare, and then it's not what they think they're going to see. They're like, oh my God, what's going on here? To me, it's get away from the facility, come back on Tuesday morning, everybody, and refresh. Wipe the last 2 weeks, burn the tape, and get better.
Yeah, because this is at this point, it's not going in the direction that it should be for a team, as we mentioned, with the type of talent they have. Even if at some places it's a little older, obviously Rodgers 40, Smith near the end, CJ is probably near the end, but you get my point. There's still too much there to be 2-3. Let's move to Patriots, who lost 15-10 to the Miami Dolphins. Quite possibly one of the grossest games I've had to witness in person in a long time. And when you consider the way the Patriots have played, really dating back to the back end of Mac Jones's rookie year when they lost 4 of 5, including an absolute ass whooping in the playoffs in Buffalo. We've seen a lot of bad football, but yesterday might have taken the cake. And for me, I don't know how you don't sound the alarms about the coaching on the football team. And we've touched upon this in each of the last couple of weeks in terms of the error repeaters and the edges for 3 straight weeks, blowing the edges and talking about it. Like, that can't happen again. We don't play that way. We know we got to keep this guy in the pocket. And then, boom, sure enough, the guy's out of the pocket. Aaron Rodgers, who couldn't complete a pass out of the tackle box before they played him, is running around like crazy, completing passes outside the box, running for first downs. Purdy does it the following week. Geno had done it in week 2. This game, they did a better job with Huntley. Huntley sucks. Let's just let's not. And God bless him. They signed him, 2 weeks ago. And yeah, Snoop. He's got a pop gun arm. It's pretty gross. That was a team that, even though their high end talent is still better than your high end talent, because they have Tyreek, they have Waddle, they have some pieces, right? You shouldn't have lost that game. And I know some Pats fans will say, well, the call at the end of the game with Polk and the rule's the rule. I don't quite get it either. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a great rule, but it is the rule. And you weren't complaining about it when it happened to other teams in other years. It happened to you there. Polk didn't know the rule. I had to explain it to him after the game. Pop Douglas didn't know the rule. I had to explain it to him after the game. And I'm like, I don't know, like, is that bad coaching? Maybe a little bit, or the guys aren't listening. Maybe that's it too. I don't know. But like, Polk had time to settle his feet. Like, he didn't have to overreact, and it wasn't a great throw, but he didn't have to get up and get it like that. He had time to get his feet down. He didn't do it. So no touchdown. And then he's on the 40-yard line as they're showing a replay on the Jumbotron, trying to like egg the crowd on to be like booing the refs. I mean, again, dude, that's the rule. Like the board operator clearly didn't know it because they kept showing it, and the fans didn't know it because they're booing. But it's like, and oh, by the way, we still have to play. Get your ass in the huddle. Like, again, an example where if I'm the coach, maybe I just say, what are you doing? Get your ass over here. And, like, you walked off the field against San Francisco. You said like, my bad, won't happen again, look bad. And now you're on the 40-yard line going nuts when your team has to keep playing. You still have the ball. And again, I think part of that is like, Gerard wants to treat these guys like men. Bill did not treat them like men. Don't say anything, like, you're in trouble if you say anything. You get tapped on the shoulder, you got to go to the office. Well, Gerard says, hey, you want to talk it, go back it up. Well, they've been talking, and they're not backing anything up. They've lost 4 in a row. They played poorly. They had 14 penalties in the game. 12 of them were accepted. Too many men on the field. One delay of game that they wanted to take on a punt, one that they didn't. Like, it's a hot mess, and one week after the other. So now the problems are migrating to different places. Yeah. And so obviously the easy answer, and we'll get into it, is, do you just say, damn the torpedoes and play the quarterback at this point, Drake Maye? Well, I'll tell you what, you talked about like the coaching staff needing to step away with the Jets. I think these guys all have to get in a room together and say, let's hold each other accountable, because we're not a good football team, and we're not a well-coached football team. Keon White with 2 15-yard penalties on the same drive, comes out for one play and goes back in. Like, he headbutted the quarterback. You can't touch the quarterback to begin with. You're going to headbutt him? Like, and you think you're not going to get a call? Come on. Like, it's gotten to the point where, again, like, just too many things are happening, and you can blame the players and they have to be more disciplined. Absolutely. But you better hold them accountable, and you're the head coach and your coaching staff, and you're not. And it's just spiraling in a bad direction.
So a couple things. Obviously, I think it's time to start Drake Maye. I've been on this show for 3 months now saying, wait as long as you can. I think me and you both thought it was the Miami game related. The first half of the first quarter was the season was not the time. Jacoby's not good, man. Like, the more I watch him, and I understand, again, the expectations are what they are, and I'm not saying this is all on Jacoby Brissett. I mean, it is just that he holds the ball forever, and he just will not throw the football. The arm's not that live. He's good in a situation where he can dink and dunk, and he's a better, the year with Cleveland and stuff, and his first time in New England where the talent's really good around him, and it's kind of just don't make the mistake. Yeah, he doesn't make the mistake for sure. And again, he takes some shots. He's a warrior, great dude. Like, again, none of this is like a shot at him. But, like, the Patriots win that game with Drake Maye probably, no? I mean, just from the aspect of, like, can he create 1 or 2 off-schedule plays? Can he pick up that one first? I mean, look, not for nothing, the Patriots giving up 190 yards rushing on 41 carries is not
gross.
That's not what you would expect just from a team that knows that the Dolphins can't throw the football. It's like, why are you not fully just selling out so hard for the run? I know you don't want to get beat by Tyreek and Waddle, and Tua's not playing, man. Like, Tyler Huntley's playing. Patriots ran the football unbelievably well.
Didn't run it enough.
Yeah, didn't run it enough. Like 34 passes for Brissett. I mean, 160 yards, another bad QBR game. I just, like, I get it. It's frustrating, but, like, even at the last second, they get the ball down there and they can't even, it's like.
Well, I mean, look, that's a perfect example of, like, again, just sort of, and you're obviously going to put this on Jacoby because he's on the field. You're 31 years old. You've been in the league for a long time. You got no timeouts.
You can literally.
You have to throw it either in the end zone or to the sideline so someone can get out of bounds.
Yeah.
He just like baited him into
Here's a good example. This happened yesterday.
You can't complete a pass 20-something yards down the field and expect your offensive line is going to be able to get down there, get set, and spike the ball in the 5 seconds that you had to do it. It's not going to happen.
No. Rodgers yesterday in the Jets game, as they're driving and try to go win the game, and again, it didn't work, but a ball got batted up in the air. There's no one around Rodgers.
Yeah, I saw it.
Everyone at first, Kurt Warner, who I was sounded a little bit like a jealous ex yesterday announcing that game. Love Kurt, but I've never heard someone rip Rodgers more in my life for Rodgers threw Garrett Wilson open, and he was like, not sure he did that on purpose. It's like, okay, Kurt, he was better than you. Didn't get over it. But Rodgers bats the ball down because he knows that the 30 seconds or 40 seconds that'll go off the clock here is not worth 5 yards. And to me, it feels like I'm frustrated if I'm a Patriots fan right now because I feel like there's no pressure to win this year. For the 150th time, the Patriots who go 0-17, Giardi Maye would have had his job back. So coaching, like you're, desperately trying to get a win here, to me is just losing sight of the fact that this is a rebuild. We got rid of Bill. You got rid of Bill. You got rid of a lot of these veterans. You cut Juju in camp because you're like, we're not going to do this. We're going to play the young guys. Well, let the young guys make mistakes. And when it comes to Drake Maye, again, he's going to have a lot of mistakes he's going to make. Go drop him in against D'Amico. Who knows, in the Texans, maybe that's not the right move. But Houston hasn't really overly impressed me, and not for nothing. You had a stretch of 3 games in a row here at home. I feel like at some point, those guys in that locker room are going to go, man, you made the point last week, man, I'm out here getting my ass kicked. And then, Drake Maye can't. And it's nothing he's doing wrong. It has nothing to do with Drake Maye, but guys start to think like that. You almost kind of build in this resentment. You don't even mean to. You just do.
Right.
So I'd start Drake Maye this week. You have 3 home games in a row. Yeah, it's not an easy part of your schedule, but at this point, again, it's not about wins. Why don't you go test them? What if Drake Maye goes out and plays well on Sunday afternoon, and you're going, oh, all right, we played well against Houston. You certainly can play well next week. And it gives him time. He's seen 5 weeks now. He's seen different defenses. I just think for the Patriots, if Drake May's in there, you almost have the mentality where you're okay knowing if we lose, it's about the quarterback and developing these guys. With Jacoby in there, it feels like it's kind of like a win now mode, even if it's not meant to be. It just feels that way. So I don't know. That's for me. I think it's kind of time. And you don't want to lose too much of your season at this point now where guys start to check out a little bit. Right now, they're still playing hard. And you want to have those guys playing hard with your rookie quarterback.
Yeah, it's I joked about it. It's unfair to Jacoby, but he knew what he was getting into. He's been the human shield, and the human shield they were hoping could hold up, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever they could do to buy themselves time to eliminate some of the bad habits that Drake got into at North Carolina and just get him adapted to being under center more, the pro game. But now they've gotten to the point where it's been 2 games in a row where Jacoby is clearly the pressures and the hits have taken its toll, and he's not seeing the field the way he needs to see the field. Checking down when they're he had Pop and Pop was open in front of him. He took the check down instead. It was like Pop had a step too. If you throw a good ball there, Pop's quick. Who knows? 10-yard play turns into 25. Instead, you're throwing the ball sideways for a check down, and you're not getting any yards. I don't love the idea because I think we saw and we heard Alex Van Pelt talk about the regression in the Jets game when Drake came in, and some of the footwork stuff showed up, and he didn't make a couple right reads, and he bailed in the pocket, and he's not the one who's been getting hit, right? So already doing some things that they don't want him to do, but at this point, it feels like Brissett's so beaten down. And now the offense is looking at going, I was open. They were saying some stuff early in the year, I was open, and you go back and watch the tape and you're like, no, you weren't really open, or you really weren't paying attention to the fact that he was under siege and there was no way he was going to be able to get the ball to you or see you. He was in survival mode. Well, now you're seeing times where he's holding the ball for 3.5 seconds. Guys are open, and he's either taking a sack, taking a hit, throwing the ball away, or throwing the ball to the check down. And you're like, okay, you're a little bit broken right now. And I don't know how you're already in the danger zone of losing a locker room because you've lost 4 in a row and because of the way you're playing and because maybe some guys look at other guys and say, Oh, he just got two 15-yard penalties and missed one play and came back in. Or even Ramondre, who everybody appreciates Ramondre and knows the work he puts in. So he doesn't start because he's fumbled 4 times in 4 games. He missed the first 4
Still
plays of the
got
game,
12. Still got 12 carries.
and then he's back in the game. Like you didn't, as I mentioned at the time, when I think when it was when Mayo had revealed it on a Patriots show on Friday or something, I was like, okay, great that he's not going to start him. But if he's, and I wouldn't sit him either because again, he's one of my better players, and I don't think he's doing it out of stupidity. He's not holding the ball like a loaf of bread, but at the same time, like, oh, you're going to sit him, but you're not really sitting him. You're not. This it's like a paper move, but not a real move. So I think they're a mess. I think they stink right now, and maybe they don't stink next week or a month from now, as I wrote in Boston Sports Journal by December. But right now they stink, and I don't. Aside from making the quarterback change
So much
or
else you could do.
smacking a bunch of these guys around and saying, "What the hell are you doing? You're not going to play if you play like that." Like I don't know how they change it. So
yeah, to me, it's like make the move now or make it like Thanksgiving. Like it's one of the two. You're either going to go with it and try to get a shot in the arm here. Three home games. Obviously 2, and then the one,
right.
One overseas. But I feel like I know I'm wavering a little bit on this, but I just feel like now's the D'Amico's defense is at least kind of sit back and zone. The Jaguars are horrendous. The Jets come in and I don't know. The Jets play a lot of more zone, and maybe it's like it's a little easier to figure out. To me, this is a shot in the arm. Like, let's put out a fire before it gets too hot. I don't think his confidence is going to get totally shot. Drake May seems like a kid who's got it together.
I think he's got enough swagger to handle it, and you just got to talk him through it. When because we know there are going to be bad plays. It's just
it is what it is.
Bo Nix has bad plays, and Bo Nix played 6 years in college. Like I know Jaden's going crazy, but he also had 55 starts in college. Like, and Caleb is a special talent, and you're starting to see the special talent. The game is slowing down for him the last 6 quarters. He looks awesome. Now can he keep that going? My guess is he probably can, but there'll be some moments where it goes in the other direction because they're rookies and somebody will hit them with something they haven't seen. Or they'll make some plays and then they'll get down on themselves, and that's just what happens. He's going to have moments where it looks terrible, but you're just going to have to live with that during the course of that time. Like that's just what it is at this point.
Yeah, I don't have much more on that one.
All right, let's hear from one of our favorite sponsors, Prize Picks, who are absolutely fantastic. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You sign up today. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly. You don't even have to win to get that $50 just by depositing $5. Prize Picks. Run your games. All right, let's get to the next one. Ravens Bengals. This game was the game. I was excited to be able to go back and watch it last night. Ravens win in overtime, 41-38. But I want to start with the Bengals because I think I had them as a playoff team. I forget where you were. Did you teeter on the edge? You might have had them out
6 or 7.
Yeah,
6. Yeah, I
Burrow
maybe had them out. I forget.
Burrow throws for 392, 5 touchdowns, and they lost the football game. He said afterwards, "We're not a championship level team right now," and I come back to coaching here. I said this seems to be a trend here. Zach didn't have him ready for the start of the season, and that's been a Zach Taylor thing. They've gotten off to bad starts every year that he's been there. This year they get off to a bad start. They lose a game to the Patriots, that's the only game the Patriots have won, right? You can't lose that. I know they had stuff going on, the Jamar stuff, and then no T. Higgins in that game. But then in this one, Lamar fumbles in overtime. You've blown a 10-point lead, but it's 38-38. Lamar fumbles on the opening drive of overtime. Your offense is cooking. He calls 3 straight runs in the middle of the line and then attempts a 53-yard field goal. Like, you have Joe Burrow. You have Jamar Chase, who's pretty much uncoverable right now. He had a good game yesterday. Like, it was going. I can't explain it to me. Like, they're 1-4, and their talent says they probably should be 3-2 or 4-1 at this point. I don't know how you dig yourself out of this hole. They keep putting themselves in it. I don't know how they dig themselves out of this one.
Yeah, a couple things. One, the Ravens seem like they're going to be an offensive team this year, and that's fine. You have an MVP level quarterback. You have a running back who's going to go into the Hall of Fame. You have, Andrews looked a little better in this game. They got likely involved a lot more. Derrick Henry obviously rips off the big run. The offensive line's been better. All that stuff. Lamar was special. So, my takeaway is the Ravens are going to be a team that has some talent on defense. They should get better as the year goes on. I don't think they're going to be just bottling people every week. But
Yeah,
offensively, they're awesome.
their secondary is an issue.
Yeah, it's beat up, and in many ways. But I think the Ravens are a team that's probably going to cruise to the division title. I know we're not going to talk much about it, but the Steelers are not very good. I've said it for weeks. They're extremely fraudulent. That's a bad Cowboys team, and if you can't get it done at home against them, you're not getting it done. Cleveland's obviously probably the biggest disaster in the NFL right now, and the thing with Cincinnati for me is this: like, they're going to be a fun team. I wouldn't want to play them any week personally because Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins can just crush you like we saw it last week. I don't think they did the same thing the Jets did last week. Settling. I know 50-yard field goals are not the way 50-yard field goals were when before me and you were born. I get it, but they're not a given, especially outdoors. So anything can happen, and just kind of sitting on the ball to hopefully kick a field goal there is just such a weird move. The Bengals defense is terrible. I mean, truly terrible. So I don't think they're going to have a chance to be able to be a playoff team this year. I just don't think there's enough games on that schedule, and they can't stop anybody until they start stopping people. It's really like they're those Warriors teams with like Monte Ellis and Steph Curry back in the day, where like they'd score 140, but they'd give up 175. And you're like, who gives up 175 in a game? So my biggest takeaways are like Lamar and Burrow are both awesome. Lamar beats Joe Burrow pretty much every time he plays him, by the way. So that narrative by people, that's the opposite of the case. It's actually Lamar always beats Joe Burrow. But Burrow is awesome. He's played really well this year. And, outside of the New England game, I think they're kicking themselves. They've dropped 2 games against teams that are better than them, and they've played well enough to win. But they haven't made those plays, and sometimes those years happen. It'll be a classic. Like Bengals this year will struggle, and then the regressions this year, they lose all the one-score games, and next year they'll win every one-score game and they'll win 14 games. Like that's what happens in the NFL. We saw with Minnesota 2 years ago into last year. Baltimore's really good. Again, they're not perfect. I think they're beatable, but they're very good. Lamar is awesome, and I think from a Bengals perspective, the defense right now. Some coaching, some defense, some just stupidity, for lack of a better word, right? Like it is what it is. They're 1-4, and they're going to have to get really hot here because they're losing a lot of conference games. They're losing a lot of winnable games, and in this league, it's early, but they're going to have to probably go 9-3 the rest of the way.
Yeah,
and I just don't know if you can count on Burrow to be healthy and amazing every single week to carry you to 9+ wins the rest of the way, where you'll have one game the defense holds someone to 15, or 1 week it's running game actually matters. Zach Moss got beat up. So I don't know. My takeaway is like I think Baltimore's going to walk to this division title.
Yeah, look, just for those who missed it, 348 for Lamar yesterday, 4 touchdowns, rushed for 55 yards. He has the most 4 touchdown, 50-yard rushing games of any quarterback in NFL history. I think he's doubled the next closest guy. I think it was Cam. Like it's just he's a freak of nature. And I want to put one thing on your radar when it comes to Cincinnati at 1-4. Trade deadline is November 5th. T. Higgins is on the franchise tag.
He going.
I mean, you lose a couple of these games here before November 5th.
What's the point? You're not going to pay him, right? So what's the point?
It doesn't appear that that's ever been
Mike,
part of the conversation. Like,
wouldn't you trade everybody? I'm serious. Like, wouldn't you not trade other than Burrow and re-signing Chase? Shouldn't everybody be on the table?
I would consider, I would say pretty much.
What Buffalo just did this past offseason. We have our guy. We've paid him. We have another star guy or the other offensive piece we want to build around. We like our staff, whether you like them nationally or not. We like our staff. We have time here at Joe Burrow. The contract's just about to, I think it kicks in this year or next year, whatever. Isn't now the time to say, like, why don't we almost restart all these other guys in rookie deals, and we'll go get another, and like we might suck the rest of the year, but we're going to come back into 25 with this young revamped core. We'll spend on free agency where we need to. I just feel like if they lose one or two more, this is the year. Like outside of whatever you paid Logan Wilson and Trey Hendrickson, everybody else, I don't know. Like I love Sheldon Rankins. You probably could get a mid day 2 pick for Sheldon Rankins on a 1-year deal to go help a contender be a pass rusher inside. Could you not get T Higgins? Probably get a 2, maybe a 3.
Think.
I would think
I would
so.
think.
And
T Higgins would look pretty good in
is
Kansas City.
Yeah, if Zach Moss gets healthy here, can you not flip Zach Moss for a pick to one of these teams that need a running back? Like, Minnesota, they keep competing. Like, do they go, we'll flip a 4th for Zach? I don't know. Again, I don't know the exact compensation. I just think this might be the year you say, let's throw in the towel. Let's totally revamp this roster going into 25. We got as launch out with this 5-year window as we could. Let's reset the window with our quarterback and pay Jamar Chase and get this thing done.
Yeah, because again, really three games between now and the trade deadline, and if they go 1-2, 0-3, like what are you even doing? You could
just
even
for
say
context,
they go
they have the Giants this week. That is not going to be as easy of a game as we thought.
Giants frisky.
Especially if you can't play defense, then you're not really a good matchup against the Giants because the one thing they can't do is really play offense. They do have Cleveland, so you'd expect maybe they could win that game. But then they have Philly. Like their schedule is kind of light the next 4. That's where it's interesting. But the problem is if you don't get some of those wins at Baltimore, at the Chargers when they have everyone healthy again, Pittsburgh, Dallas, I don't know, they get the Broncos. It just
2-1 probably convinces them that they're still in it on the next 3. But 1-2, like Brown might say, I'm not paying the rest of T Higgins' contract. So let's get him the hell out of here.
You're gonna make me pay Jamar Chase $800 million a year.
Right. Yeah. Let's save some cash. Let's move to the next one. And how about the Chicago Bears? Absolutely wallop the Panthers. And look, we know the Panthers, although they've been better with Andy Dalton. They talk about injuries too. Like their team is just falling to pieces from a health standpoint. Bears are 3-2. Caleb's getting it. 304 yesterday, 2 touchdowns, just took 1 sack. Finally, the work that he and DJ Moore, and you've seen, a couple weeks ago, there was maybe some bad DJ Moore body language. 5 catches for 105 and the 2 scores yesterday. Like they've been putting in a lot of time. If you follow the Bears, like good amount of work after practice, during practice to try to get that combination right. They were the sexy pick in the offseason. They were the sexy pick all summer long, and you and I kind of resisted it. But now knowing what the NFC looks like, and that maybe Caleb is starting to figure this thing out, are they changing your mind at all?
So I'm a huge Caleb guy. Everyone knows USC wise, etc. I thought if you just look at the way he's played, and again, I know every week's different and every matchup's different and injuries and different quality defenses. He's thrown the ball 26.5 times a game the last 2 weeks, up, down from 37, 52. Right. He's running the football better. He's taking way less sacks. His yards per attempt are higher. 10.5 yards an attempt, this week. He had a touchdown run called back. That was insane. I think he's being a little bit more diligent about when the right time to get rid of the ball. He's not taking as many sacks because I think he runs around back there, but then he throws the ball away at times, or he actually makes guys miss, or he had the touchdown DJ Moore was gorgeous, 10 out of 10 throw. I don't know if they've changed my mind yet because I just think there's a couple of teams that have looked better the last, him and the Giants both have looked a lot better the last couple of weeks, but I don't know. I look at that NFC North and they're the 4th best team still right now, and I don't think the North's getting 4 teams in. So unless Minnesota really regresses or Green Bay, doesn't fully hit their stride or for whatever reason, or Detroit stumbles, I don't know how they can't get in as the 4th. So the NFC's kind of sucks, but I'd still pick them, Philly over them. I'd still probably twist my arm. I'd take them I'd probably take Dallas in a game against them, maybe. Right. But it's been impressive. And if you're Carolina, it's just hard, I guess, if you're a Panthers fan, because what there's not the quarterback or like, and I guess
Yeah,
it's the coach.
Bryce was your hope. He was like
Right?
that.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
now it's just like,
that's how the
oh,
Patriots fans feel right now. You've been in this place.
yeah.
So they drafted Zach, and you're like, have we finally solved the quarterback problem? The Patriots obviously had the quarterback for 20 years, and then they've been in Never Never Land for the last 5. It's like, is Drake the guy? And if Drake's not the guy, it's like that will be gutting for people. Just like in Carolina, like we had Cam for a while. That was nice, and then they've been here, there, and everywhere. You get the number 1 pick, you trade up for the number 1 pick, and he turns out to be a guy that you've sat on the bench after 18, 19 starts. Yeah, that's a little frightening.
Yeah, I like Chicago. I think they're going to be a hard out all year. This year is all about Caleb. I think if they can find a way to be in the mix in December, having Caleb and this young core play in meaningful games, that's like Bears. The Bears, who I don't know, when's the last time you felt good about your quarterback? Jay Cutler at points like once if you could get to the point where you go, he's our franchise guy. We wanted it, we got him. Now you go into 25 going, well, let's see if we have the coach. Not sure you do. But we have a lot of talent here, and like we're one more offseason away from being a legit competitor to like go win this division. And so that's why to me, like this is great. This is a great development. I'm not out on them. I'm just not in yet. They have to show me a little bit more. This Rams team's really banged up, and then they win that at home. Then they beat a Panthers team. Like not hating on it. You can only play who's in front of you, but I got to see maybe 1 or 2 more weeks where you go, oh, okay, we can trust.
I like how you described Caleb, because for me it started to turn with him in the second half of last week's game against the Rams, where it wasn't. He just played calm, and it was like, all right, there's a 5-yard throw here.
The game slowed down all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 5-yard throw. Hey, take the profit. He didn't play outside of the offense, outside of himself. And it felt like it carried into this week, where then all of a sudden, when there was opportunities to make bigger plays, he made them. You mentioned they ran the ball a little bit better. Still not great. Swift had 73 yards on 21 carries. That's not an awesome average. But at least for the moment, I take Shane Waldron off my suspect list for what he had done with the offense. But we'll see. You're right. They got to continue to progress and continue to be this sort of team. Let's finish with the Bills and the Texans. The Bills lose the game 23-20. Josh Allen, 9 of 30.
Oh, yeah.
9 of 30. Probably got concussed, although he's not in. Sean McDermott this afternoon said he's not in the concussion protocol. They gave him smelling salts on the sideline. He missed 1 play. If you saw the video, like he looked like he was in La La Land. But 9 of 30. And they were, and I was there talking about it. We talked about it the first 3 weeks. The everybody eats mentality. They got rid of Diggs. Everybody eats. And it looked great for 3 weeks. The offense bogged down big time against Baltimore, despite Josh doing some ridiculous things in that game. And then in this game, they got it going a little bit, but by and large, stuck in the mud. And we mentioned Devontae Adams when we were talking about the Jets. This is another place where Brandon Beebe might have to say to himself, do we do a rental for 1 year and give up the 2nd-round pick? Because I don't know that the Keon Coleman, Mac Hollins, Shakir didn't play yesterday. So, he's been their best receiver. Haven't quite figured out a way to get Dalton Kincaid going like they did last year. Dawson Knox, who I think is a pretty good receiving tight end, pretty much, tell me he's done anything this year, I'd be surprised by it. Like they just haven't figured out a way to get those 2 guys on the field at the same time and have some production out of it. So Curtis Samuel, that looks like that was a bad signing. They needed him yesterday. 1 catch, I think, for 5 yards. So they're in a place now where first 3 look good. The last 2 have not looked good at all. Who are they? What are they? And what do they need to do if they want to be maybe who we thought they were the first 3 weeks?
We talked about it in the preview pod. I wasn't trying to be skeptical of Buffalo because they're in the Jets division. I was skeptical because they had 1 good, like 1.5 really good games, and I felt like they got really hot in the second half against Buffalo, and Arizona is not good. I know they won yesterday, but Arizona is very they're a spunky 7-win team to me. Like I just think they're hard to beat up for sure, but West Coast team on the East Coast, like you should handle, they should have handled them and the Tua stuff. And I guess I would say this with Buffalo. One, the Josh Allen thing was ridiculous. And this is nothing to do with the Jets are playing the Bills this week. This is purely like he was out cold. It was so obvious. He literally he locked up like this. Like I don't know what it everyone knew it. I'm like, wow, damn, he bashed his head off the turf, side of the head. I mean, that's concussion all day long. He like didn't even have to go through protocol at all, which was really weird. They gave him the smelling salts and it was really obvious. And like we saw this last year with Brock Purdy, and he was all of a sudden put on protocol and Tua and stuff. And it's weird that Allen's like kind of avoiding that. I don't know if he's just not reporting it or whatever. I mean, he was out. Like I don't. It was really odd. This is not It's not a bias thing. He was out cold. He was terrible yesterday. The one touchdown was like Keon Coleman making a corner miss in man coverage 1-on-1, and he took it 50 yards. Like other than that, Josh Allen was 8 of 29 for 120 yards. It's 2 bad games in a row. It happens. He's been getting hit a lot of big shots the last 2 weeks. They got to be careful of that. Again, he's avoided injury, thank God, for the Bills case and for the league overall. But you know what? I know he's Superman, but being careful there. Buffalo's defense I think it's a league average defense. I think they've got some good players.
They're too light on the interior. They're too light at the linebacker level. Like
they're fine. They're fine. They're fine group. Like they can play well. They can play.
Fast.
They're well coached. They're fast, but I just don't think they're like in the Bills' defenses of years past. I will say, and I said this about Stroud after week 1 and week 2. He is not, to me. I think he's still amazing. He's a top 5 guy or top 6 guy in the league. And again, it's nitpicking. This was one of those weeks where like a lot of those, whoa, what are you doing there throws or what are you doing there plays he got away with early in the year? He did not get away with yesterday. And Houston and Kansas City are combined 9-1 or 8-1, soon to be 9-1. I have not really been overly impressed with either team.
No, it's an awesome point. Neither one has played good. Well, I shouldn't say good football. Neither one of them has played football to the level that their record says they're playing.
Which is, if you're a fan of those teams, you're going, man, we could play so much better.
Right.
4-1, 5-0. Like that's awesome, right? Like if you're a Houston fan, you're like, we're gonna be 6-1, 7-1 going into Halloween. Like I'll take that all day long. We have a top 5 guy. Again, I don't blame you for a second. I just personally felt like Buffalo kind of has to beat the Jets. Like, and I know it's like kind of trying to steal one on the road and try I would consider it their hardest out of their hardest division game probably is the road against the Jets, just based on how they've played there the last couple of years. You're asking Josh to do a lot, and they don't run the football as much as they should. I feel like I don't know why they get away from it. It's a lot of deep shots. It's a lot of these long developing routes. I'm not concerned if I'm a Bills fan, but I'm also not happy at all with the way things have looked the last couple of weeks. And a lot of the fears of people of Buffalo going into the year is what we've seen the last couple of weeks, and they're really stiffer competition. And again, with Houston, I think Houston's really good, but I feel like they tried everything they could to lose that game. And Buffalo's like, Sean McDermott was like, you think you're trying to lose? Well, let me show you.
Well, let me run that through for people who didn't. So the 32 seconds left, tie ball game. Bills have the ball on their own 3-yard line. Texans have all their timeouts. The Bills did 3 longish passes, right? Like, I mean, not even.
We're talking post concussion or post whatever that was you want to call it, Josh Allen.
So you didn't force. So I don't know really what the thinking is there, because you're on your own 3-yard line. Do you really think you can get into scoring position in these 32 seconds?
The first play, it doesn't bother me, but then once you get the offensive pass interference, it's over.
Yep. Second and third bother me. And look, some people have done like the numbers and like, oh, well, if you ran the ball, it would have worked out to be the same time when you kicked the ball off, but you would have had to make them burn all their timeouts. Obviously, the kick wasn't great. Sets them up one play. They get a completion. They bring on Fairburn, and he nails a 59-yard field goal to win the game. McDermott said today, like, I'm going to learn from it. But to me, this is a bigger picture McDermott question, because he's a good program builder. They've had a lot of success there. They haven't gotten over the hump. We know the 13 seconds, the home loss to Cincinnati in the playoffs. Last year, Bass misses the field goal, would have forced overtime. Like, they've been in these moments. They've been in this place and haven't gotten over the top. Where is Will on Sean McDermott, head coach, and is he the type of guy you feel like can take them over that hump?
I think at the point with Sean right now, they're really well coached when things are going right. They are usually really well prepared for games. I think he's a really good program builder, as you mentioned. He's had a lot of success in Buffalo. I do think if this year kind of spirals in any way, shape, or form, they've kind of done all the things you could do before you fire the coach. It's usually you fire the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. That's both happened. It's usually you trade the player that's a cancer. You've done that. It's the playoff loss. It's everybody else's fault. At some point, it's going to be him or Josh, and it's obviously not going to be Josh. So I don't think they're right there yet with McDermott. I think that was just, I don't know, he pissed down his leg. I don't know how else to describe it. I think he was like, Josh gives you such irrational confidence. It almost makes them make dumb decisions at times. But I do think, like, if this ends up being an 8 or 9 win team, I don't think it's going to be. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're the clear favorite to win in the division until the Jets or Miami get out of their own way. But yeah, if another first round exit, a home playoff loss or something like that, or just feels like they've done every other thing that you could do before a coach goes. And I'm not out on Sean, but he is on the thinnest of ice. Long term, not in season. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah. You gotta. Yeah, there's a game or two a year where you're just like, what?
Usually it's the Jets game.
Yeah,
and
it usually is.
It's usually like, what was that?
And that game promised. Look, you want to talk about? I love the idea you go into 2 weeks and it's like, who's the more desperate team, right? The Jets should be a desperate team, but the Bills should be a desperate team, which should make for a very good football game. But we'll see. I've been fooled before. Before we get out of here, want to pump up another one of our sponsors, GameTime.co. Like, look, I talk about this every week. I talk about this every pod. Like, this is like the greatest time. You've got baseball playoffs. You've got college football. You got NFL football. We're about to have NBA and NHL. Those things are getting started already. Like, it's just everything is coming to a head. There's games on every single night. WNBA playoffs. Like, there's literally everything is happening. And what better place to get your tickets than through Game Time? I have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, and I can't stand that. Like, just give it to me. So I click, boom, done. That's what they do for you. Simple, too. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And it's also put a wrap on all 32 until Friday. That's going to do it for us. As a reminder, please like, subscribe, leave reviews, tell your friends. Let's build this thing because we're having a lot of fun doing it, and we hope you're having a lot of fun listening to us. He is Will. I'm Mike. See you on Friday.